Hey everyone, welcome to the Halo Wars 2 Beginner's Guide, focused on the leader and the hero Colony. Colony is one of my favorite DLC characters in Halo Wars 2. I love the theme of Colony, and it's really cool that the hunters kind of get to shine in a DLC character. This tutorial is going to be a beginner's guide of how to play as Colony. There's a lot of different builds that you can do as Colony. One of my favorites is actually doing a Goliath rush, so that's what this build is going to focus on. If this isn't the type of build that you enjoy with Colony, I may end up making a second build video on a more standard approach to Colony. Again, as every video in this series is designed for beginners, so if you have a lot of experience playing the game, this may not be the best guide for you, but there is a playlist with all of the guides that are being done in this series, so I highly encourage you to check that out. So starting off, when you load into the game here, when you look at your power wheel, you have the option between Skitter and Living Barrier. My personal opinion is Skitter is so much better than the Living Barrier. I don't think the Living Barrier is a bad power. I just think the Skitter is so good on the kind of buffs that you get. With our build order here, I'm going to start out by building 2 harvesters. I'm going to send my starting grunts out to go gather some power crates and some supply crates. Our eventual build order is going to be, we're going to have 2 harvesters here. This is going to be a power extractor. We'll upgrade that harvester as soon as it's done building. And then our final 2 base slots are actually going to be raid camps, because we are going to go for a Goliath rush. It's also probably going to be very important for us to get a mini base. On this map, Rift, it's really personal preference on where you like to pick up your mini. I actually really like picking them up in the back where it's a little bit more protected. Of course, you can get both, but for the sake of this guide, I'm only going to get probably that first one while we get some Goliaths going here. So we got our harvester going, we got our power extractor built. I'm going to go send these grunts now over to that mini. Our grunts are getting these power crates, which is good. Okay, we'll start building on that mini now. That is going to be another harvester. Any of my additional grunts that are still not collecting crates, I'm going to send them over to this power node to get ready. I may even build one more additional grunt to speed up the whole process. We have over 300 power, so I am going to upgrade the power extractor. And now it's time to start building Goliaths. They are 150 supplies and 80 power. You can see we're getting power kind of low. I'll build another harvester right there. And you're going to remain kind of at low power until you upgrade your power extractor and you capture 1 or 2 nodes. The nodes are really going to come in handy here for this kind of approach. For our second point, Engineer Swarm is fantastic. It is an insanely good healing ability. It makes it kind of hard to really stop your rush if you drop that on your Goliaths. So go ahead and take this node here. Meanwhile, as long as I have power, I will be pumping Goliaths. I have seen some people have done this sort of a build by throwing skitters on top of the Goliaths. You can do that. Just keep in mind that instead of 150 supplies and 80 power, you're going to be at 300 supplies and 100 power for each Goliath, and that's a pretty expensive endeavor. In between, when I don't have a lot of power, I'll actually build a few grunts, just so these grunts can help take out any additional enemy infantry when I go to attack their base. I would say around the 5-minute mark is probably about as long as you would want to wait for this. Reason being is you may have the chance that your opponent will have a lot of units such as Jackrabbits, as we can see here, or they may even be at second tech. They may have some turrets up, but I have 12 Goliaths right now and 8 Grunts. Now, I should be able to take this out here, but if I have the chance to end the game, I'm not. Of course, because this guide will cover the next tech level. So this guy is at tech 2. He's going to drop the lag bomb. Let's move over here. We will take out this turret. I'll drop the NG swarm now. I'll take out his garage here. And he's setting up siege. You can see just how quickly I'm doing damage. He's not going to be able to stop this. Now, while you're doing your assault, I would destroy one of your raid camps and build your next power extractor, because once you're done with this attack, your opponent is not going to let this happen for a second time. Okay, now we're ready to go to second tech, so I'll immediately go to do that upgrade. We have our next point available. The two options here are Colony Drop and Hunter's Brand, both of which I think are excellent, and it really can depend on your opponent and your allies and the map, of course. On this particular map, I may lean more towards the Colony Drop because we can drop 2 Veteran Goliaths into battle, so if we go, say, bother this Expo, I can get some backup over there pretty quickly. If you think your opponent is making a lot of units that are easy to take out, maybe the Hunter's Brand. I'm going to go Colony Drop for this go-around. This is a great hero unit. I can't speak highly enough of the Hunter Captain. This dude can just take on an entire army. He is really tanky. He has a siphon ability. He is just so good. I will say that it is a requirement that you put 2 Skitters on your Hunter Captain. The Skitters have such a good damage buff to whatever unit they're attached to. Looking at our leader wheel, I think out of the 2 teleport that are available to you, teleport is really good. Upgrading the NG Swarm is not bad either, and getting the Hunter's Brand is a solid choice as well. I wouldn't underrate vehicle symbiotes either. This does a great job at buffing vehicles and even buildings. People forget that this can buff the armor of your buildings. Can really help you if you're trying to protect a base. At this point, we have the option to choose between Devastating Host and Combat Repair. Devastating Host may be one of the best drops in the entire game. It's a great drop. Some people will tell you to go for Devastating Host. I'm more of a person that would tell you to go for Combat Repair, because everything will just start healing. Everything, including buildings. So my base will be at full health now. All of my units will be at full health now. It really is personal preference, but if you're going to get Devastating Host at one point, you get Combat Repair the next. I got Combat Repair at this point, so next I'm going to get Devastating Host. Devastating Host, also the drop zone, gives vehicle symbiotes to whatever's in that drop zone. So sometimes what I'll do with Reavers is try to group them all together and then drop Devastating Host on these Reavers so they all get vehicle symbiotes as well. So let's go over some of the pros and cons of Colony. But I'll start with the pros. Colony is one of the tankiest leaders in the game. The Hunter Captain is so good. He gets veterans so quickly. And when you throw 2 Skitters on him, he has such a huge damage boost that he's really hard to take out. His Y ability of the taunt is really awesome. And he's just generally overall a fun hero to play as. I wouldn't say add skitters to every single unit in your army, because your army composition and the amount of units in your army is going to go way down. But where it makes sense, you should definitely do it. And some of the things that make sense is Hunter Captain makes a lot of sense, the Scarab, even some Goliaths maybe early on in the game, even Reavers. Whatever makes the unit more versatile in all sorts of combat situations is a good idea. I've even seen people do skitters on engineers, so their engineers can heal and attack. Combat Repair is a great ability. This, of course, heals all your units and buildings. Devastating Host is also, in my opinion, the best drop in the entire game. Dropping the Devastating Host can change the tide of a battle, and maybe even win you a whole match, is how good Devastating Host is. Some of the cons for Colony: the Hunter Captain is a very slow-moving unit, so if you're playing on a big map and you need your Hunter Captain to move from one place to another, it may be best to get the teleport ability, or go through some of the teleporters that are available to you on the map. He's just one of the slowest moving leaders, I think, in the entire game. He doesn't have a nuke like an Eradication. That's something not really going Colony's way. There is no sort of Inferno or Eradication. I will say the Hunter's Brand is a pretty good substitute for that. The Hunter's Brand, fully leveled up, does a significant amount of damage, but it's just not going to wipe out, half a base or take out part of an army like some of these other nukes available to other leaders. There's also no mines available for Colony, so if you're someone who's a big fan of dropping mines everywhere, that's not even an option for Colony, so you may want to pick a different leader. Also, the Hunter Captain has very few unique units. The Hunter Captain was, I think, the first banished DLC character that they introduced to Halo Wars 2, and this is before they got extremely creative with adding new types of units and abilities. So, from my understanding, the only unique units to Colony are the Goliaths. Everything else is kind of standard banished, but it's not necessarily a bad thing. It's just something to note if you want to be more creative with choosing more unique units. Someone such as a Vortis or say even a Yap Yap would be great in that regard. So now that we're at Tech 3, this kind of goes across the board for Banished. Banished do great with very specific kinds of units later on in the match. So what I'm talking about specifically are the Wraiths are excellent. Hunters are great. I'll make sure they're upgraded for both of the unit as well as the infantry upgrades. Same goes with vehicles as well. And finally, Reavers. Mix those in with some engineers, maybe a Shroud or two, and I'd say you're pretty well set for your army composition. Making really these three types of units are going to make sure you're going to be able to counter ground, air, and vehicles pretty well. All of these units, I would say the Hunters and the Wraiths have a decent bit of health. The Reavers are a little weak, in my opinion, but you don't need to buy, I would say, more than 5 or 6 unless your opponent is massing air. If it makes you feel better about having fewer Reavers, you can attach Skitters to them. And I think that's a pretty substantial army composition to help you for the remaining of the match. That's more or less my favorite army composition for the Banished, is making Wraiths and Hunters with sprinkling in some Engineers and Reavers in there. Colony has probably one of the best Scarabs in the game. This is due to two things. It is the Combat Repair that heals the Scarab, as well as the Skitters. You can actually attach 3 of them on a Scarab. So your Scarab not only heals faster and has more ability to heal in combat than any other Banished Scarab, but also has more attack than any other banished Scarab as well. So I would say the two best leaders for Scarabs in Halo Wars 2 is Colony and Vortis. They have great options for the Scarab. So if you have the opportunity to make a Scarab where it makes sense in a match, I think this map complements a Scarab very well. It's not too big. It's fairly easy to retreat back to your base if you need to. So I would say, by all means, make a Scarab, but I would not make a Scarab when you have no other units in your army. So I have 76 pop right now. If I get infantry level 2 here, I'll have 120. So I will have enough to make a Scarab, and I will have enough to make 2 Skitters out of the 3. I can send one of my Grunt squads to go die. And then I will have, let's see here. So I'll have a Scarab with 3 Skitters, 4 Engineers, my Hunter Captain, which has 2 Skitters, 3 Wraiths, 6 Reavers, and 2 Hunter squads. I think that's fairly good of an army composition. So by and large, that's pretty much the majority of beginners' tips to play as Colony. I think if you play as Colony, you're going to have a lot of fun. He is, in the tier rankings, he's one of the better leaders in the game. He's usually consistently ranked towards the top. And a lot of people love playing as him. He's just a great overall leader to pick in Halo Wars 2. If you haven't had the chance yet, I'd recommend playing as him. He's a lot of fun. You'll get some good enjoyment out of the Skitters and a lot of the other powers that Colony has to offer. And, you know, just try out and see how you like it. I really enjoy playing as Colony. I really do. There is a playlist with all the other leader guide videos that are in this series. So if there's a particular leader, chances are it will be in that playlist. This series, currently at time of recording, is still majority of them have not been published yet, but eventually they will be. On our Discord server, I have a nice pretty little page dedicated to this series, so it's really easy to track which of your favorite leaders have been done in this series, and which ones are coming soon. So keep an eye on that. If you have any more additional questions, I would also encourage you to join our Discord server, because we have a lot of the more experienced and competitive players that are extremely helpful giving tips and tricks on newer players or people trying to understand different leaders in Halo Wars 2. So if that's something you have questions about, I would encourage you to join that as well. And let me know what leader we should focus on next time. Thank you all so much for watching. Let me know how I did in the comments section down below. And I will see you all very soon. See you, James.